Welcome back, everybody. For those of you that are tuned in to this week's video, just want to say thanks for your support. Thanks for the view. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Again, if this is something that you feel is worthwhile. Um, Here we are, another Monday, another video being recorded. And something I wanted to bring up today, I guess, is our topic of discussion. Actually, something that I've been recently thinking about a lot as this season in my life is really a transitioning season. A lot of new things starting, a lot of things on the table, a lot of things kind of up in the air. If you've ever been in a situation or a season like this where you're transitioning from one place to another, you know what I'm talking about. It can be something on a grand scale, it can be something small, it could be as simple as changing one part of your routine, or however that may be. But definitely a change is coming. Definitely there's a change that's already in the works. And so it brings me to really think about this idea of perspective, what we perceive, right? What we see and how we see things. And I think I touched on this at least in one of my videos earlier on, as far as perspective, right? How we see the world, what things look like to us. And see, the thing about transition, right? The thing about going from one place to another, whether it's figurative or literal, the thing about moving from where you are to another place, again, a lot of things come with that, right? Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Okay, sometimes it's not a change that's welcomed. Sometimes it's a shift and it's a transition that isn't something you really wanted in the first place. Perhaps it's an unfortunate situation, you might call it. Something's occurred, something's come up, and it's really disrupted your normal routine. It's really kind of made what is typically just a normal, rhythm of your day, of your life, and really just disrupted that, right? So I do understand that there's those types of transitions, there are those types of changes, and the emotional, mental aspect of that I don't take lightly. And so I do realize that this isn't something that's to be taken lightly at all, because everybody's in a different situation, everybody's in a different circumstance. Now, whether you have transitioned or you're in a transitioning period like myself, it's a little different. I have had, plenty of times in my life previous where, I've been in a season of certain things and then something will change. And so I've kind of been down this road before. And as much as it's familiar, it's different, right? Because I'm transitioning from a place that I am into another place that I don't know what it quite looks like. And again, I'm talking figuratively. I'm talking, career wise, mentally, as far as like, goal wise, my vision, my understanding of where I want to be, short term, long term. This is a transitional period. And so really what comes to mind there is, hey, well, what happens in this transition, right? What happens when I go from one place to the next? And why is it important that I sort of embrace the change that's kind of upon me? Not that, in my particular case, I said, like I said before, I know there are transitions, there are changes that happen, that just kind of happen to us. This is something that where, there are elements that were not in my control. And then there are certain elements that are in my control. One of the things being how I choose to accept this transitional period. So as I'm moving from one place to another, what do I expect from myself, and what can I do to ensure that, number one, not only does this not work against me, but how do I ensure that I get the most out of it, right? I'm somebody who believes that if you look for what you can take from something, if you look for any type of, positive, any type of lesson, anything that's helpful from a situation, it just helps, right? It gives you something to lean on. Um, Wasted time or wasted energy is just the worst thing, right? I mean, especially with time, that's something we can't get back. And so I'm really in this time of my life. I haven't always been this way. A lot of growing pains, a lot of mistakes, a lot of immaturity, a lot of childish ways that I had to work through and leave behind. So I haven't always thought like this. But currently in this time of my life, this is where I'm really wanting to gear my thinking towards is how do I gain, how do I get the most from whatever's happening? So whether I'm in a good season, whether I'm in a bad season, meaning, nothing seems to be going right, nothing seems to be going my way. I've definitely been in those. If you've been in some times like that, feel free to comment, feel free to share even an example of what that looked like for you. Um, it can be bad sometimes. It can be a place where it's like, man, like this, like you used to see in the cartoons, this little gray cloud, right? This rain cloud representing like just bad luck and just, being down, like following you everywhere. I've been in seasons like that. Those things do happen. They do occur, and they're sad. They're frightening. They hurt, right? And then of course we have seasons where everything seems to be going right? I'm my scratchers are winning, right? I'm I'm getting checks in the mail from class action lawsuits I had no part of, but hey, you want to give me $200? I'll take it, right? Like stuff like that, like just you win after win, right? So definitely been in places like that as well. But really, it's just about, okay, what is going to be your perspective? So because the thing about that is, because I've been in both, um, I could, if I allow myself, I could get into the space where it's like, I'm always looking over my shoulder, like, hey, I'm everything's good right now. When will something, become bad, right? Or whatnot. Or yeah, things are tough right now. I just got to wait it out. The good's right around the corner. That's not too bad. Okay, we can expect things to get better. There's nothing wrong with that. But in a transitional period, going from one place to another, right? And right now where I'm at, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily going from a bad season to a better season or anything like that. I think right now what's in front of me is more unknown, right? So there's that element of mystery, of not really being sure, where the pieces will land, right? Like, I've got things that I'm working on. I got things that I'm pursuing. I've got things that didn't necessarily work out the way I wanted them to, but now I'm kind of, transitioning. So, one thing that I have found, right, like I said, over the years, I've had to live and learn. Over the years, I've had to make a lot of mistakes, and there were times where I was able to learn from the mistakes of others and kind of go a different route. A lot of times I just kind of stumbled on my own. But one thing that I will say, and you've heard this before, hindsight is 2020. Okay. So if we try to hold ourselves to that standard, as far as like, man, I should have seen this coming a mile away. Why didn't I get that back then? Well, hindsight's 2020. Okay. Of course you didn't get that back then. You get it now because you can look back and see where things added up or where they didn't add up. Right? But we can't hold ourselves to this impossible standard. So I think that's the first thing we got to do. The first thing I need to do for myself, right? Transitioning from one place to another, I'm just not going to guess everything right. I got to work with what I have, right? And what I have in front of me is my current perspective, how I'm seeing things at the moment, okay? Now, the good thing about transition, the good thing about growth, change, anything going from one place to the next, is that your perspective will change. You will see a different side of things, even a different side of yourself, than you would have seen if you stayed in the same place. Change is a good thing. Is it comfortable? Heck no. Is it fun? Nope. Is it painless? Absolutely not. Is it necessary for growth? I believe so. So now as I think that way, I'm fighting with myself, right? Because I still have doubts. I still have things that I'm anxious about. I still have things that I'm kind of like, well, what if this or what if that? Those are always going to be a part of the equation, right? It's always going to be almost a discipline for me to tame those things and calm those thoughts, put them in their rightful place, because they are there. I'm not saying ignore it. I'm not saying, no, you're not really worried, psych yourself out. That's not what this is about. This is reality. We're human beings. We feel things. We struggle with things. Stuff weighs on us. That's totally fine. That means that you're in touch with your emotions. That means that you're alive. You're a regular person. Okay, we don't have to play the denial game. There's no need for that. So those things are very real, but they do have a place. And their place is not in front, right? I put them in the back seat. What I need to put in the front seat is my awareness. Okay, transitioning from here to here, what do I need to look for? What clues can I pick up on as far as how am I supposed to take this? How am I supposed to function during this time? And like I said, I'm in a state of mind now where I'm looking to get something from it, regardless of what happens. And I know last week I talked about the law of the harvest, and we talked about, reaping and sowing, and how sometimes what we reap is not what we expected. So I'm trying to stay on top of that. And that doesn't mean false hope. That doesn't mean, well, Josh, you're just trying to, not set yourself up for failure. Partly true. But the other part is I'm trying to ensure that my perspective changes. See, if I decide that my transitional period, going from one place to another, is going to be beneficial no matter what, then that's going to be at the forefront of my mind. And again, it doesn't mean I'm going to make things up or imagine that things are better than they are. What it's going to do is it's going to first introduce me to whatever opportunity there is to learn and to gain from this situation. So as I transition, I know, just like the times before, it's going to help my perspective. It's going to sharpen the way I see things. It's going to change the way I see the things in front of me. This is a good thing. Because maybe where I was would not have allowed me to see the things that I'm going to need to see next. So if you're in a transitional period, or if you're coming up to one, or maybe the last one wasn't a very good experience, try to take that with you. Try to take what I'm saying with you. Meaning, hey, you know what? What happened before, it doesn't have to be the same thing this time around. I don't have to fall flat on my face. I don't have to chalk it up to just a complete disaster and a waste of time, or just completely, a heartbreak, or it was just a complete, painful situation. And I'm not saying that there aren't those. There are painful changes. I know there's things that happen, and they happen to us. Okay? And I'm trying to be, I want to show empathy toward those things, right? I know that there's stuff that is just, it's terrible. Okay? I'm not trying to say that, oh, this is all just, fun stuff, but this is life. And whether we want to or not, things happen. So we get to choose. We get to decide, hey, am I going to get up in the morning? Am I going to continue even after that? At the end of the day, we still have a decision to make. As much as it sucks, as much as it might be unfair, we still have to make a choice. So going back to what I'm saying about this transitional period in my life, and if you're going through a transition yourself, moving from one place to another, okay, I've got to put that in the forefront of my mind. I've got to see the opportunity. I've got to see the lesson first. I've got to look for something to take from this. I've got to look for something that's going to sharpen my perspective during this moment. Whether it's me reflecting on what I've done up to this point, whatever that's going to look like, and whatever that's going to look like for you. But transitioning from one place to another, it does change our perspective. It will allow us to see things different. Different than what you would have seen if you stayed in the same place. Now, how often should you move? How How often should you transition from one thing to another? That's not for me to say. This situation that I'm in, again, some of it was within my control, some of it wasn't. But here we go. I'm on the move. I'm going from one place to another. And again, it's decision time. How do I want to deal with this? How do I want to see this? How do I want to embrace this transition? That's all up to me. And it's all up to you. So I hope that what I've said tonight is helpful, whether you're in that transitional season right now, whether you've been through that and had a tough experience and are not looking forward to it again. I hope this helped. Appreciate you listening. Thank you.